Okay. Good day. Let us discuss, okay, or let us continue our discussion on negotiable instrument law. Okay, this is now the part 2. Okay, nag-stop tayo before on section 21. Let us continue, which is section 22. Okay, under section 22, sabi dyan, the endorsement or assignment of the instrument by a corporation or by an infant passes the property therein, notwithstanding that from want of capacity, the corporation or infant may incur no liability thereon. Okay, ang covered nito ng Section 22, okay, yung Corporation Act Ultra Vires, saka yung infant dito, hindi to literal na infant talaga. Okay, covered nito yung mga incapacitated person under Article 1327 of the Civil Code. Unemancipated minors, insane or demented person, or deaf, mute, or unable to read and write. Okay, ang sinasabi lang dito ng batas sa Section 22. Okay, yung Corporation Act Ultra Vires, saka yung minority, they can transfer title. Okay, pero notwithstanding from lack of capacity, they incur no liability. Ulitin ko, no liability. Kaya kaya nilang mag-transfer ng title, pero wala silang na-incurred na liability. Kaya lumalabas yung Section 22 is a real defense that can be set up against any holder, including a holder in due course. Okay? Now, let us illustrate. This is a question actually in the bar exam before. Okay, kunwari ito yung maker, nag-issue ng promissory note payable kay P or order. However, the payee is a minor. Okay, in-endorse. Okay, tapos in-endorse. Ang question, can the holder in this case enforce the instrument against the maker? Okay, kung baguhin natin yung tanong, can the maker set up the defense that he is not liable, okay, to the holder because the payee is a minor? The answer, of course, is no. Because the maker is guilty of estoppel under Section 60. Kasi pag binasa mo yung Section 60, yan yung lumalabas na liability ng maker. By the way, yung Section 60 saka up to Section 69 kasi liabilities ng mga parties yan. Diba? Section 60, liability ng maker. Section 61, liability ng drawer. Section 62, liability ng acceptor. Tapos Section 65, liability ng person negotiating by delivery or by qualified endorsement. And Section 66, refer to liability of a general endorser. Okay, ngayon, ang sabi kasi ng Section 60, the maker of a negotiable instrument, by making it, engage that he will pay it according to the tenor, according to its tenor. Ibig sabihin, tenor ng instrument. Pero pag kinompare mo sa Section 62 liability ng acceptor, hindi liable ang acceptor sa tenor ng instrument, but rather the acceptor is liable according to the tenor of his acceptance. Kaya ibig sabihin, kung halimbawa sa promissory note, yung maker, 100,000 yung PN, liable ang maker for the 100,000. Pero yung acceptor, kung 100,000 yung bill of exchange, in-accept lang niya for 80,000, liable lang ang acceptor for 80, not for the 100,000. Kasi hindi naman siya liable sa tenor ng instrument. Liable siya according to the tenor of his acceptance. At sabi dito, ina-admit ng maker yung existence ng payee and his capacity to endorse. That's why based on Section 60, may binanggit ditong dalawang instances na hindi pwedeng mag-set up ang maker ng defense. Una, hindi pwedeng sabihin ng maker dito na hindi siya liable sapagkat ito ay fictitious or non-existing. At pangalawa, ito ay incapacitated. Kasi the moment na ang defense ng maker dito, ito ay fictitious or non-existing o kaya ito ay incapacitated. Like sinabi ko, minor siya o kaya baliw yan. Hindi mo pwedeng gamiting defense yan. Kasi may admission ka ng capacity nito to endorse. Kaya tandaan nyo ha, okay, tandaan nyo yung dalawang admission ng maker. Ina-admit niya ang existence nito. Pangalawa, yung kanyang capacity to endorse. Kaya ulitin ko, the moment ng defense ng maker dito, ito ay fictitious or non-existing o kaya ito ay incapacitated, no defense ka. Sapagkat guilty ang maker ng estoppel under Section 60. Kaya hindi liable, kaya lumalabas, pag tinanong ko kayo, liable bang maker dito? The answer is yes. Kasi hindi niya pwedeng sabihin na hindi ako liable sa iyo sapagkat ito ay incapacitated. Pero kung halimbawa ang defense ng maker dito, ang kanyang signature was forged, ibang defense na yun. Okay? Pero ang defense, kung ang defense niya dito, ito ay isang minor or infant nga, no defense ka. Okay, now let us modify. What if this is insolvent? Okay, syempre wala kang ma-recover dyan kasi insolvent nga. You cannot squeeze blood from a dry stone. Ngayon, pwede bang habulin ng holder ito? Well, binigyan mo pa ng notice of dishonor. The answer, of course, is no. Because this payee can set up the defense of minority because they incur no liability. Kaya yung defense niya, real. At pwede siyang i-set up against any holder, including a holder in due course. Question, pwede bang habulin ito? Ito. Okay? The answer, of course, is yes. Sapagkat ito ay isang general endorser. And under Section 60, meron kayong 4 na warranty ng general endorser. Number 1, he warrant that the instrument is genuine in all respect what it purport to be. Second, that he has good title to it. Number 3, that all prior parties has capacity to contract. And number 4, that at the time of endorsement, it is valid and subsisting. Okay, anong binayolate ng warranty ngayon? Binayolate niya yung kanyang third warranty na lahat ng prior parties ay may capacity to contract. Kaya kung halimbawa ang defense niya rito, hindi ako liable sapagkat ito ay minor, no defense ka. Sapagkat guilty ka ng estoppel under Section 66. Kasi winawarrant mo na lahat ng prior parties ay may capacity to endorse. Okay? Kaya tandaan nyong maigi yung mga warranties ng party. Kasi kung may warranties ka, tapos yun ang defense mo, no defense ka. Sapagkat guilty ka ng estoppel. Okay? Now, let us proceed on Section 23. Another favorite section in the board exam. Forgery. By the way, ang forgery daw ng negotiable instrument, pwedeng forgery on promissory note or pwedeng forgery sa check or a bill of exchange. Ngayon, pag finorge ang signature, pag finorge, nagkaroon ng forgery sa promissory note, pwedeng ang finorge dito ay signature ng maker or pwedeng forgery sa signature ng any endorser. Ngayon, kung sa bill of exchange naman yan, pwedeng ang finorge dito ay signature ng drawer or finorge ang signature ng any endorser uli. Ngayon, pag finorge ang signature ng drawer, pwedeng number 1, with acceptance, or pangalawa, without acceptance, but there is payment by the drawee. Okay, now tingnan mo to, ay, may sagot na. Ang sagot is letter C. Okay, tinanong yan before sa bar exam question. Sabi dyan, forgery of bill of exchange may be subdivided into forgery of endorsement on the bill. Di ba sabi ko pag finorge ang sa bill of exchange, pag nagkaroon ng forgery, pwedeng finorge yung signature ng drawer or finorge ang signature ng any endorser. Ngayon, pag finorge yung signature ng drawer, pwedeng number 1, okay, with acceptance. Or pangalawa, without acceptance, but there is payment by the drawee. Okay? O nakakalagay dyan na forgery ng endorsement and B, forgery ng drawer signature. O, pag finorge yung signature ng drawer signature, pwedeng number 1, with acceptance. Okay? Yun, with acceptance by the drawee. Or pangalawa, without acceptance, but there is payment by the drawee. Kaya ang sagot natin is letter C. Without acceptance, but the bill is paid by the drawee. Okay, punta na tayo sa legal basis. Okay, ano ba yung legal basis ng forgery? That is section 23. Sabi dyan, when a signature is forged or made without the authority of the person of whose signature it purported to be, it is wholly inoperative. Now, pero may tanong muna ako dito. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng word na wholly inoperative? I'm referring to the entire instrument or I'm referring only to the forged signature? Okay, the answer is I'm referring only to the forged signature. Because those signatures are genuine, are still liable. Ang magiging inoperative lang daw dito yung forged signature. Kasi those signatures are genuine, are still liable. Kaya hindi magiging wholly inoperative yung entire instrument. Ha? Okay? Ulitin ko ha. Wholly inoperative, but only with respect to the forged signature. And no right to retain. Wala ka raw right na i-retain yung instrument or to discharge therefore. O yung tanda nyo, pag discharge ng instrument, yan yung section 119. Okay, discharge of instrument. Section 120 refer to discharge of party secondary liable. Kaya wala ka raw right na mag-discharge ng instrument or to enforce payment. Di mo rin daw siya pwedeng ma-enforce. Okay, yung payment against any party. Yung word nang nilagay na any party, I'm referring to any holder. Any party, walang distinction. Kaya ibig sabihin, kasama dyan both a holder as well as a holder in due course. Kasi nga, any party, thereto, can be acquired through or under such signature. Ang exception lang daw, unless the party against whom it sought to enforce such right is precluded from setting up the forgery or want of authority. Sa madaling salita, ine-emphasize lang ng Section 23 that forgery is a real defense. It can be set up against any holder, including a holder in due course. Unless, may exception, kapag kayo ay guilty ng gross negligence or second is guilty kayo ng estoppel. Kaya dalawa lang ang exception natin. Yung tinutukoy ditong precluded from setting up the forgery or want of authority. Kasi lumalabas na preclude ka from setting up the defense of forgery or want of authority because you are guilty of gross negligence. Or second is estoppel. Now, let us illustrate. Okay, A, for instance, issued a promissory note payable kay B or order for 100,000 pesos. Payable to order. In-endorse kay C nag-pay to C, signed B. Now, si C naman in-endorse kay D, nag-pay to D, signed C. However, si D na-misplace ang promissory note. And it was found by X. Ang unang tanong kasi dyan, can X negotiate the instrument to E? Siyempre, the obvious answer is no. Why? Because kailangan ng endorsement ni D. Kasi di ba pag payable to order, kailangan ko ng endorsement completed by delivery. Kaya hindi niya pwedeng i-negotiate yan kay E. Kaya ang ginawa ni X, in order to negotiate it to E, then X pretend to E that he was D. And X forged the signature of D. Kaya lumalabas, na-negotiate niya kay E by forging the signature of D. Tapos si E naman, ni-negotiate kay F. Si F ni-negotiate kay G at si G ay ni-negotiate kay H. Ngayon, pag nagkaroon ng forgery sa endorsement, simple lang ang gagawin nyo. Pag payable to order siya, mag-cut kayo kung saan nagkaroon ng forgery. Kasi lumalabas yung forged signature dito, it becomes fully inoperative. Kaya walang valid transfer of title from D to E because of the forged signature of D. Kaya lumalabas si H, okay, ang sabi dito, wala kang right na i-retain yung instrument or to give discharge therefore or to enforce payment thereof against any party thereto can be acquired, okay, through or under such signature. Kaya kung halimbawa, tinanong ko kayo, pwede bang habulin ni H si A? The answer is no. Kasi, yung lumalabas na title ni E becomes defective. Fully inoperative yung forged signature dito ni D. Kaya walang valid transfer of title from D to E. Kaya si A pwede siyang mag-set up kay H ng real defense of forgery. Eh how about si H? Pwede ko bang habulin si B? No. How about si C? No. Ganon din kay D. Kasi nga, walang valid transfer of title from D to A because of the forged signature of D. Kaya hindi pwedeng habulin ni H si A, B, C, D. Lahat ng mga parties prior to the forgery. Kasi hindi mo siya pwedeng ma-enforce yung payment dito. Kasi wala kang title insofar as A, B, C, D is concerned. Pero pwede bang habulin ni H si E, si F, saka si G? The answer is yes. Because ang wholly inoperative dito, hindi naman yung entire instrument but only with respect to the forged signature. Kaya lumalabas, since the signature of E, F, G are genuine, then E, F, G are liable to H for violation of their respective warranties under Section 66. Sabi ko nga, pag general endorser ka, may warranty ka that the instrument is genuine and in all respect, what it purport to be. Kaya liable si EFG for violation of their respective warranty. Eh how about si X? O liable din siya being a forger. Pero question, hindi ba may sinabi ako sa section 18 dati na no person shall be liable on the instrument whose signature does not appear thereon? Eh wala namang signature doon si X. Okay, kasi ang nagre-reflect na signature doon, signature ni D, yun nga lang, pinorge. Answer, liable si X. Kasi exception yun sa general rule under section 18. Kasi once na forger ka, liable ka even though your signature does not appear on the instrument. Ngayon, let us modify. Paano kung halimbawa ito ay payable to bearer? Okay, same facts. Pwede bang habulin ni H si A? The answer, of course, is yes na. Why? Pwede bang sabihin ni A na hindi ako loyable sa'yo sapagkat pinorge ang signature ni D? The answer is it cannot be set up because forgery on the signature on the endorsement is immaterial. Because a bearer instrument is negotiable by delivery. Kaya kahit walang endorsement ni D, manenegotiate yan kay E. Gets nyo? Kasi kung payable to order, bago ma-negotiate ni D kay E, kailangan endorsement ni D plus delivery. Kaso kung bearer instrument, hindi kailangan ng signature ni D, delivery lang, pwede nang i-negotiate yung instrument. Kaya hindi pwedeng mag-set up si A ng defense against H that the signature of D was forged because forgery on the endorsement is irrelevant because the instrument is payable to bearer. Okay? Ngayon, ang pangalawang tanong dito, malamang mag-iisip ka. Sir, ibig sabihin ba, may defense ba si A? Answer, meron. Pero anong defense ni A? Forgery? Hindi nga. Kasi nga, irrelevant yung forgery. Pero anong pwedeng gamiting defense dito ni A? Answer, ang pwede niyang gamiting defense dito, yung section 16, yung tinatawag na complete but undelivered instrument. Pero ang problema dyan, personal defense lang yan at hindi yan pwedeng i-set up against a holder in due course. Pero kung ang defense nito ni A is forgery, ay hindi pwede sapagkat irrelevant nga ang forgery. In fact, in fact, under section 48, kung nare-recall nyo, ang sabi dun sa section 48 is striking out of endorsement. Sabi dun, any holder may strike out any endorsement which are not necessary to his title. Ang tanong, kung ako si H, the present holder, pwede ko bang burain lahat ng signature dito? The answer, of course, is yes. Kasi lahat ng signature dito ay irrelevant sa title ni H because a bearer instrument is negotiable by delivery. Kaya pwede kong burain lahat ng endorsement including the forged signature. Kaya kung binura ko na lahat ng signature, lahat ng endorsement, including the forged signature, may forgery pa ba? Wala na, di ba? Kasi binura ko na eh. Kasi authorized ang any holder na i-strike out lahat ng endorsement na hindi necessary sa kanyang title. Kasi nga, the instrument is payable to bearer. Pero tandaan nyo, pag payable to order, okay, hindi ka pwedeng basta-basta mag-strike out ng endorsement. Kasi pwede ka lang mag-strike out ng endorsement pag yung endorsement ay hindi necessary sa title mo. Okay? Kaya tingnan nyo maigi sa problem kung yung instrument ay payable to order or payable to bearer. Pero tingnan nyo maigi ha. Sabi mo, sir, sandali. Paano kung halimbawa hindi nagkaroon ng forgery dito? Nagkaroon ng forgery sa mismong signature ng maker. Liable bang maker? Of course, the answer is no. Why? Because the signature of the maker was forged and therefore his signatures becomes wholly inoperative. Whether payable to order or bearer yan, lumalabas, hindi liable si A kasi yung mismong signature niya yung finorge. Yung signature mismo ng maker. Pero pag nagkaroon ng forgery sa endorsement lang, tingnan nyo kung payable to order or payable to bearer yan. Okay? Now, let us give another illustration. Si B, for instance, Nag-execute siya ng promissory note by forging the signature of A as maker. Tapos si B ang lumalabas na payee. Pero nakalagay kunwari payable kay bearer na lang. Tapos ang ginawa ni B, dineliver kay C, dineliver kay D, dineliver kay E. Si E dineliver kay F. Kaya lumalabas ang present holder natin ngayon ay si F. Then ang question ko, class, pwede bang habulin ng holder si A? The answer, of course, is no. Because A can set up the defense of forgery on his own signature. That's why the signature of the maker becomes wholly inoperative. Kaya real defense yun A. O ngayon ang tanong kung ikaw si F, sino nga habulin ko dito? Pwede bang habulin ni F directly si B? The answer, of course, is no. Sabi mo, bakit, sir? Kasi hindi mo naman siya kilala. Kaya paano mo mahahabol yan? Hindi mo kilala. Kung nakalagay sa instrument, payable to bearer lang. Hindi naka-reflect yung pangalan doon ni B. Sino lang ang kilala dito ni F? Answer, C lang. Hindi rin kilala ni F si D, saka si C. Sapagkat wala namang signature doon si CD because nag-negotiate sila by delivery. Walang endorsement eh. Kaya ang kilala lang dito ni F, technically, C. Kaya nga pag binasa mo yung section 65 eh. Ano ba yung section 65? Ito yung nag-negotiate ka by delivery or by qualified endorsement. At ang sinasabi doon, okay, doon sa last paragraph, yung ika-third paragraph. Sabi doon, pag nag-negotiate ka raw by delivery, your warranty extend in favor of no other holder other than his immediate transferring. Kaya ibig sabihin, ang kilala lang ni F dyan, si E. At si E, liable siya sa warranty niya hanggang kay F lang. Pero hindi niya pwedeng habulin si D sapagkat hindi naman kilala ni F si D. Kasi ang kilala lang niya ay si E. Parang ganun lang, nag-deliver ako sa iyo. Yung kilala mo, ako lang. Pag ikaw dineliver mo sa iba, ang kilala nun, ikaw lang, hindi kasama ako. Sapagkat hindi niya ako kilala kasi hindi niya alam na galing sa akin yung instrument. Kaya nga habulin dyan ni F, si E. Si E, hahabulin niya si D. Si D ang hahabulin si C. At si C ang hahabulin ay si B. Pero kung hahabulin ni F directly si D, o kaya si C, imposible. Sapagkat hindi kilala yan ni F. Sapagkat ang negotiation dito ay delivery lang ng instrument, walang endorsement. O gets nyo? Kaya i-correlate mo yan sa section 65 ha. Sabi ko nga, pag nag-negotiate ka by delivery, ang warranty mo, okay, the warranty extend in favor of no other holder other than his immediate transferring. Okay, ito kanina in-illustrate ko na. Assuming yung instrument ay payable to bearer, pinorge ang signature ni B. Tandaan nyo, pinorge dito signature ng payee. As endorser. Hindi yung maker. Tapos in-endorse. Pwede bang habulin ni E si A? The answer, of course, is yes. Hindi pwedeng mag-set up si A ng defense of forgery because forgery is irrelevant because the instrument is payable to bearer. And a bearer instrument is negotiable by delivery. Kaya nga sabi ko, kung ang defense dito ni A ay forge yung signature ni B, ang gagawin lang ni, burahin mo yung signature ni B. Sapagkat authorized ka lang i-strike out ang any endorsement which are not necessary to his title. Kayo. Okay? Kaya lumalabas dito, liable si A. Okay? Pero tanungin kita, paano pag si A is a holder not in due course? Pero syempre ang presumption is holder in due course dyan si A. Kasi ang sabi ng section 59, di ba? Every holder is deemed prima facie to be a holder in due course. Kaya lumalabas ang burden of proof nasa iyo to prove na hindi siya holder in due course. Okay? Paano kung hindi nga siya holder in due course? Bawa, na-prove na yung title ng any person na negotiable instrument is defective. Sabi ng batas, ang burden of proof nasa iyo na. Kailangan i-prove mo na holder in due course ka under Section 52 or na-acquired mo ang title mo from a holder in due course under Section 58. Ngayon, ang tanong kung holder not in due course to, liable ba si AKE? The answer is, pwede ka na mag-set up ng defense. Pero hindi forgery, I repeat. But rather Section 16. Okay, complete but undelivered instrument. Kasi walang valid delivery from B to C. Kasi napulot lang siya ni X. But that is just a matter of a personal defense that it cannot be set up against a holder in due course. Ngayon, question, paano pag nagkaroon naman ng forgery sa drawer signature? Okay, example si P. Nag-execute siya ng bill of exchange, pinord niya ang signature ng drawer. Si P naman ang ginawa, naku, present for acceptance dito, inaccept naman ang acceptor. Ninegotiate kay A, napunta kay B, napunta kay H. Ang question, pag hinabol ni H yung acceptor, can the acceptor set up the defense that he is not liable to the holder because the drawer signature was forged? The answer is no. Because the acceptor is guilty of estoppel. Kasi nga sabi ko sa inyo, basahin mo yung Section 62. Anong sabi ng Section 62? The acceptor, by accepting the bill, he engaged that he will pay it according to the tenor of his acceptance. And he admit the following. Number 1, the existence of the drawer, the genuineness of his signature, and his authority and capacity to draw the instrument. Second, he admit the existence of the payee and his capacity to endorse. Sa madaling salita, kapag ang acceptor, di ba yung drawee, in-accept niya yung bill, meron ditong total na 6 na hindi niya pwedeng i-set up na defense. Ano yung mga in-admit niya sa Section 62? Una, ina-admit niya ang existence ng drawer. Kaya pag ang defense ko dito, hindi ako liable sa iyo kasi ito fictitious or non-existing, no defense. Pangalawa, genuineness of his signature. Kaya pag ang defense ng acceptor dito, ang signature ng drawer was forged, no defense ka na naman. Kasi guilty ka ng estoppel, inadmit mo yung genuineness ng kanyang signature at yung kanyang authority and capacity to draw the bill. Kaya tandaan yung 4 na binanggit ko, pag ang defense ng acceptor dito, ito, fictitious or non-existing. Pangalawa, the drawer signature was forged. Walang authority ang drawer to draw the bill. At ito ay incapacitated, no defense ka. Sapagkat yan yung 4 na admission under paragraph A. Inadmit mo ang existence ng drawer, the genuineness of his signature, and his authority and capacity to draw the bill. Pangalawa, letter B, sabi doon, inadmit din niya yung existence ng payee and his capacity to endorse. Kaya kung ang defense ng acceptor dito ay hindi ako liable sa iyo kasi ito fictitious or non-existing, ito ay incapacitated, no defense ka. Kaya tandaan niyo yung 6 na binanggit kong admission ng acceptor under Section 60 kasi once yan ang nakita mong defense ng holder, automatic the holder is automatic the drawer, the automatic the acceptor is liable. Kasi liable siya because binayolate niya ang kanyang warranty. Ngayon, punta naman tayo sa forgery sa check. Okay, unahin natin kung finorge ang signature ng drawer. Ang unang issue lang kasi dito, can the drawee bank debit the account of the depositor? Okay? Pwede bang i-debit ng drawee bank yung account ng depositor kung ang signature ng drawer was forged? Sabi ng Supreme Court in several cases, general rule is that the drawee bank cannot debit the account of the depositor because the drawee bank is supposed to know the signature of its own depositor. Kasi di ba pag nag-open kayo ng checking account, okay, the drawee bank will require the depositor to sign 3 specimen signature. At ang duty ng drawee bank ay i-compare ang signature sa check dun sa 3 specimen signature. Kaya kung hindi na-detect ng drawee bank ang forgery sa drawer signature, it means the drawee bank is guilty of gross negligence. That's why the drawee bank cannot debit the account of the depositor. Kaya ang rule, ang recourse ng drawee bank, kung binawas mo na sa account ng depositor, ibalik mo. Tapos hahabulin ng drawee bank yung collecting bank. Question, sino ba yung collecting bank? Okay, parang ganito kasi yan. Bawa, yung drawer nag-issue ng check ng BPI. Okay? Yung payee, dalawang pwede niyang gawin dyan eh. Either i-encash niya or second, i-deposit niya sa account niya. Kunwari ang account for instance nung payee ay Banco de Oro. Kaya lumalabas yung Banco de Oro become the collecting agent. Okay? Ang BBDO ang mangongolekta sa BPI. Agent siya nung depositor. Kaya ang hahabulin ng drawee bank, yung collecting bank. Pero kung in-encash yan, okay, ang hahabulin mo, sino? Eh di yung nag-encash, humahabol mo. Pero kung may collecting bank, habulin mo yung collecting bank. Kasi lumalabas, okay, traceable yan eh. Kaya hahabulin niya yung collecting bank. Pwede nang mahabol ang collecting bank under the doctrine of solution indemnity. Because something is received when there is no right to demand it and it was unduly delivered by mistake. Nagkaroon ng payment by mistake. Kasi tandaan nyo, kung pinorge ang signature ng drawer, it means walang order ang drawer. Di ba pag cheque kasi yan, nakalagay sa check, di ba? Pay to the order of Juan de la Cruz, kunwari. Kung ako si drawer, sinasabi ko dun sa BPI, kunwari, bayaran mo si Juan de la Cruz or his order. Eh kung pinorge yung signature ng drawer, walang order okay, order yung drawer dun sa drawee bank. Kaya kung binayaran ng drawee bank yan under forged signature, it means nagkaroon ng payment by mistake. Kaya pwedeng habulin ng drawee bank yung binayaran niya, which is the collecting bank. At si collecting bank naman, hahabulin niya yung nag-deposit sa kanya under principal-agent relationship, wherein ito yung principal, ito yung agent niya. E di yung agent, pwedeng habulin yung principal. At mahahabol niya yan kasi customer niya yan, kliyente niya yan. Maliwanag ba? Unless of course, exception if the drawer is guilty of gross negligence. Kaya ulitin ko ang general rule ha, the drawee bank cannot debit or charge the drawer's account for said check. Kasi ang reason, the drawee bank is supposed to know the signature of its depositor. Exception, when the drawer is guilty of such negligence which caused the bank to honor such check or checks daw. Okay? Pero by the way ha, may duty rin na ini-impose sa part ng drawer. Kasi di ba yung drawee bank kasi, at the end of the month, the drawee bank will prepare what we call a bank statement. Papadala niya yan doon sa drawer together with the cleared check. Ngayon, ang duty ng drawer, pag natanggap niya yung bank statement sa yung mga cleared check, dapat i-compare ng drawer yung mga cleared check sa kanyang own record. Kasi kung may binayaran yung bangko na nag-cleared, okay, pero wala palang drinaw yung drawer, it means binayaran yan under forged signature ng drawer. Kaya dapat i-report kagad ng drawer yan immediately sa drawee bank within reasonable time. Otherwise, the drawer is guilty of gross negligence naman. Okay, ngayon, punta naman tayo dito sa section 24. By the way, ang title ng section 24 to section 29 is consideration. Sabi ng section 24, every negotiable instrument is deemed prima facie to have been issued for valuable consideration, and every person whose signature appears thereon to have become a party thereto for value. Kaya tandaan nyo ha, kaya halimbawa ako yung maker, ikaw yung payee. Nung nag-issue ko sa iyo ng promissory note, nakalagay, I promise to pay to the order of P, 100,000 pesos signed M. Ang presumption, in-issue ko yan sa iyo for valuable consideration. Pag ikaw naman si P, ang ginawa mo, in-endorse mo kay A, nag-pay to A ka, sign P. Ang presumption ng batas, ni-negotiate mo yan kay A, again, for valuable consideration. Kasi di ba sabi dyan, any person whose signatures appear thereon becomes a party thereto for value. Kaya ano ba ibig sabihin ng value? Sabi dyan, value daw is any consideration sufficient to support a simple contract. An antecedent or pre-existing debt constitute value and is deemed such whether the instrument is payable on demand or at a future time. Example lang. Diba, meron akong existing obligation sa'yo, okay na 50,000. Ngayon, para isettle ko yung obligation, nag-issue ako sa'yo for instance ng promissory note. Ang tanong, did I issue the promissory note for valuable consideration? The answer is yes. Kasi ang sabi ng batas, an antecedent or pre-existing debt constitute value and is deemed such whether the instrument daw is payable on demand or at a future time. Okay? Kaya kung existing obligation yan, okay, it means in-issue ko, okay, yung instrument for valuable consideration. Pero kung halimbawa, in-issue ko kunwari yung promissory note because of love. Love, love, love. Diba? Okay? Paano yun? Did I issue the instrument for valuable consideration? The answer is no. Kasi ang sabi ng Supreme Court, yung love and affection daw, hindi raw yan sufficient to support a simple contract. Kaya love and affection is not a valuable consideration. Ngayon, punta naman tayo sa section 26. What constitute a holder for value? Sabi dyan, when a holder daw has at any time been given for the instrument, the holder is deemed a holder for value in respect to all parties who became such prior to that time. Ano may ibig sabihin ng section 26 na yan? Example lang, halimbawa si M nag-issue ng promissory note payable kay P or order. Pero in-issue ni M papunta kay P without any valuable consideration. Si P naman ang ginawa, in-endorse kay A, pero without valuable consideration. Ngayon si A ang ginawa, in-endorse kay B with valuable consideration. O ang sinasabi lang ng section 26, si B daw, considered ka as a holder for value not only with respect to A, but also with respect to M saka kay P. Kasi ang sabi dyan, di ba, the holder is deemed a holder for value in respect to all parties who became such prior to the time. Ngayon, pag si B naman i-negotiate yan kay C by way of gift, lumalabas, okay, si B, hindi ka holder for value with respect to C. Pero holder for value si MPA insofar as C is concerned. Okay? Section 27. Yung tinatawag nating holder for lien. Sabi dyan, when a lien, okay, when the holder has a lien on the instrument arising either from a contract or by implication of law, he is the holder for value to the extent of his lien. Okay, example, KCM nag-issue ng promissory note payable kay P or order for 100,000. Ang problema si P, may utang kay A kunwari. Okay? Sabihin natin na 80,000 lang. Okay? Plinedge niya yung promissory note kay A para i-secure yung kanyang loan kay A. Ang unang question dito is this. How much can A collect if M has no defense? Magkano raw makokolekto ni A kay M kung si M ay walang defense? Answer, makakakolect si A kay M ng 100,000. Because the maker is liable according to the tenor of the instrument. Eh di ba sabi ko kanina, sabi ng section 60, the maker, by making the instrument, he engaged that he will pay it according to the tenor of the instrument. And he admit the existence of the payee and his capacity to endorse. Eh ang tenor ng instrument, 100,000, di liable si M kay A. Pero pag nakolekta ni A yung 100,000, dapat ibigay niya kay P yung excess na 20. Ngayon, punta tayo sa pangalawa. How much can A collect if M has a defense for lack of consideration? Assuming letter A is a holder in due course. Magkano makokolekta ni A kay M? Answer, makakakolekt si A kay M hanggang 80 lang. Kasi lumalabas ang lien ni A kay P is 80 lang. Kaya magiging holder for value siya to the extent of his lien lang na 80. Okay? Eh, paano pag ang tanong letter B? If A is not a holder in due course, 0. Kasi yung defense ni M na failure of consideration, pwedeng gamitin against a holder not in due course. Okay, let us modify. Paano kung halimbawa ang utang ni P kay A hindi 80 kasi mababa yung lien niya eh? Paano pag ang obligation ni P kay A is 120? O ibig sabihin, mas malaki ang lien ni A kaysa sa value ng instrument. O di magiging holder for value si A for the entire instrument. O balikan natin yung question number 2. How much can A collect if M has a defense for lack of consideration? Letter A, if A is a holder in due course. Answer, A can collect kay M 100,000. Kasi yung defense dito ni M na failure of consideration is only a matter of a personal defense that it cannot be set up against a holder in due course. Letter B, if A is not a holder in due course, 0 na. Kasi yung defense dito ni M na absence or failure of consideration, pwedeng gamitin against a holder not in due course. Punta naman tayo sa number 3. How much can A collect if M has a defense of forgery? Ngayon kung ang defense ni M ay forgery na, 0. Kasi hindi siya liable kay A because forgery is a real defense that it can be set up against any holder, including a holder in due course. Okay? Now, punta tayo sa section 28. Ito yung tinatawag na effect of want of consideration. Sabi dyan, absence or failure. Kung dalawa binanggit yan ha, isang absence, yung isa failure. Pag sinabing absence, talagang walang consideration. Pero yung failure, may consideration pero hindi siya nag-materialize. Para bang ganito? Bawa, wala kang boyfriend. Absence yun. Wala talaga. Eh, paano pag failure? Meron kang boyfriend, pero fuckboy siya. Kaya lumalabas, failure yun. Pero by the way, whether absence or failure yan, parehas lang ang effect daw niyan. Parehas lang siyang personal defense. Okay, na hindi pwedeng i-set up against a holder in due course. Kaya sabi niya na, absence or failure of consideration is a matter of defense as against any person, not a holder in due course. Kine-emphasize lang ng Section 28 that absence or failure of consideration is only a matter of a personal defense, that it cannot be set up against a holder in due course. And partial failure of consideration is a defense pro tanto, whether the failure is an uncertain and liquidated amount or otherwise. Ito sinasabi partial failure of consideration. Example. Halimbawa si A, nag-issue ng promissory note payable kay B or order 100,000. Ang kapalit, si B magdi-deliver kay A ng 100,000 worth of materials. Ngayon, kapag si B ay hindi nag-deliver ng 100,000 worth of supply or materials, makakakolekta ba si B kay A? Siyempre, obvious naman yung sagot, diba? The answer of course is no. Kasi sasabihin lang ni A kay B, okay, bakit kita babayaran? Ina mo. Diba? Bakit kita babayaran? Eh, hindi ka naman nag-deliver ng materials. Kaya ang defense ni A kay B ay tinatawag na absence ba yun? Hindi. Failure yun. Kasi may consideration eh. Hindi nga lang nag-materialize. Hindi siya nag-deliver eh. Kaya ang defense niya kay B ay failure of consideration. Hindi makakakolekta si B. Pero problema itong si B, ninegotiate kay C. At in-acquired niya ni C in good faith and for value. That's why C attained the status of holder in due course under Section 52. Lumalabas ngayon, pwede bang habulin ni C si A? Pwede bang sabihin ni A kay C na, wait, hindi ako liable sa'yo. Kasi yung punyetang transferor mo, hindi nag-deliver ng 100,000 worth of supplies or materials. Kaya kung hindi siya makakakolek, hindi ka rin makakakolek. Pwede bang gamitin defense yun? The answer is no. Pwede bang gamitin yan kung si C ay holder not in due course? Kasi yung defense ni A na failure of consideration na pwede niyang gamitin kay B, hindi niya pwedeng gamitin kay C. Kasi kung holder in due course si C, ang mag-a-apply section 57. Okay. Ano ba ang right ng holder in due course? Sabi ng section 51. Kasi by the way, ang section 51 right ng holder. Pero pag holder in due course ka, holder ka din. Ano ba sabi ng section 51? The holder may sue their own in its own name. And if the payment is in due course, then the instrument is discharged. E ano naman yung right ng holder in due course? Di dagdagan mo yung section 57. Sabi ng section 57, a holder in due course hold the instrument free from defect of title of prior parties and free from defenses available to all prior parties. And he may enforce the instrument for the full amount thereof against all parties liable thereon. Kaya ulitin ko ang sabi ng section 57, a holder in due course hold the instrument free from defect of title of prior parties and free from defenses available to all prior parties among them. And he may enforce the instrument for the full amount thereof against all parties liable thereon. Sa madaling salita, yung defense ni A na failure of consideration na pwedeng gamitin kay B, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin kay C. Kasi nga, kapag holder in due course si C, hinohold niya yung instrument free from personal defense at ang defense ni A na failure of consideration is just a matter of a personal defense na pwedeng gamitin against a holder not in due course. Pero take note, kung si C ay holder not in due course, yung defense ni A na failure of consideration na pwedeng gamitin kay B ay pwede rin gamitin kay C. Kasi pag holder not in due course ka, you merely step into the shoes of the transferor. Maliwanag ba? Ngayon, okay, kumbaga simple rule lang yan eh. Kumbaga sa ordinary contract kasi, o kaya assignment yan, okay, kung ang title ko ay defective, pag-transfer ko sa'yo, ang title mo defective deed because the transferee cannot acquire better title than the transferor. Kasi ang basic rule sa contract, di ba? The transferee cannot acquire better title than the transferor. Kaya kung ang title ko defective, pag transfer ko sa'yo ang title mo defective, kung hindi ako makakakolect, hindi ka rin makakakolekta. Pero iba ang rule sa the negotiable instrument law na pwedeng maka-acquired ang transferee ng better title than the transferor if the transferee is a holder in due course. Kasi the moment ng defense mo personal lang, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin yan against a holder in due course. Pero the moment ng defense mo real na, pwede mo na siyang gamitin against any holder including a holder in due course. Okay, now baguhin natin, i-modify natin yung problem. Paano kung halimbawa si A nag-issue ng promissory note payable kay B or order 100,000? Ang kapalit, si B magdi-deliver kay A ng 100,000 worth of supplies. Ang problema si B, nag-deliver naman. Yan nga lang, 60,000. Hindi siya nag-deliver ng 40. E di ang tawag dyan ay partial failure of consideration. Kaya ang unang tanong dito, si B ba makakakolekta kay A? Answer is yes. For the 60, but not for the 40. Kasi kung hahabulin ni B si A for the 40,000, ang defense ni A kay B, yung tinatawag na partial failure of consideration. Eh ang tanong, paano pag si B ni-negotiate kay C? Eh si C in-acquired niya in good faith and for value. And he attained the status of a holder in due course under Section 52. Makakakolekta ba kay si C kay A? The answer is yes. How much? Answer, 100. Bakit 100? Kasi holder in due course siya. Yung defense ni A na partial failure of consideration sa 40, pwede niyang gamitin kay B but not against kay C. Eh another question. Paano kung si C ay holder not in due course? Makakakolekta ba siya kay A? The answer is yes. For the 60, but not for the 40. Kasi wala naman nakalagay sa batas na pag holder not in due course ka, you cannot collect. Ang sinasabi lang ng batas, pag holder not in due course ka, you are holding the instrument as if it were non-negotiable. Kaya kung makakakolekta si B, makakakolekta rin si C. Kung hindi makakakolekta si B, hindi rin makakakolekta si C. Kung holder not in due course ka. Eh makakakolekta si B kay A ng 60, makakakolekta rin si C kay A ng 60. But not for the 40. Kasi nga yung defense ni A na 40,000 ay partial failure of consideration yon, and yan ay personal defense na pwedeng gamitin against a holder not in due course. Okay? Ngayon, yung last provision natin, okay, okay, ang last provision natin ngayon, okay, yung section 29 dito sa okay, consideration. Yung accommodation party. Sabi dito, ano bang definition ng accommodation party? An accommodation party daw is one who has signed the instrument as a maker, drawer, acceptor, or endorser without receiving value therefore. And for the purpose of lending his name to some other person, such person is liable on the instrument to holder for value, notwithstanding such holder at the time of taking the instrument knew him to be only an accommodation party. Kaya ibig sabihin pag accommodation party ka, pwedeng nag-sign ka raw as maker, drawer, acceptor, or endorser. And tandaan nyo ha, pag nag-sign ka as maker, ang tawag sa iyo ay accommodation maker. Pag nag-sign ka as drawer, edi accommodation drawer ka. Kung nag-sign ka as acceptor, accommodation acceptor ka. Kung nag-sign ka as endorser, accommodation endorser ka. Pero dito nag-sign ka, okay, without any consideration. Kasi ang purpose dito, i-lend mo yung name mo. Okay? Pero sabi dyan, yung accommodation party daw, liable ka raw dito, doon sa holder na maka-acquired ng title through his, signature. Kaya sinasabi dyan such person is liable on the instrument o holder for value, notwithstanding such holder at the time of taking the instrument knew him to be only an accommodation party. Kaya kahit alam nung third party na isa ka lang accommodation party, as long as holder for value siya, liable ka pa rin. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na hindi ako liable kasi wala ako na-receive na any consideration dito. As long as na holder for value siya, not necessary a holder in due course, sufficient na holder for value lang siya, liable ka dito. Kaya ibig sabihin, simple ang rule. Pag ang defense mo is absence of consideration, at holder for value yan, liable ka. Pero pag ang defense mo iba na, other than absence of consideration, abay dapat holder in due course yan. Hindi yan sufficient na holder for value lang. Yung other personal defenses yan. Kaya halimbawa, simple fraud kunwari. Hindi naman ang defense mo, hindi naman absence or failure of absence of consideration. O di dapat holder in due course yan. Kasi kung hindi siya holder in due course, pwede mong i-set up yung defense na simple fraud. Now, sabi mo, sir, ano pong kanilang liability? Kung nag-sign siya as maker, di naman section 60 yun. Kung nag-sign siya as drawer, section 61. Kung drawer, section 62. Kung endorser ay section 65 or 66 as the case may be. Kung qualified endorser 65, general endorser under section 66. Ano ba ang requisite ng accommodation party? Sabi ng Supreme Court na accommodation party daw must sign as maker, drawer, acceptor, or endorser. Kaya tanda mo dapat nag-sign ka as maker, drawer, acceptor, endorser. Pangalawa, no value daw is received by the accommodation party from the accommodated party. And last, the purpose daw is to lend the name. Okay, ano ba example dito? Kunwari, ganito Si A, kunwari, pinuntahan niya si B. Sabi niya, B, can I borrow 1 million? Sabi naman ni B kay A, alam mo A, gusto talaga kitang pautangin ng 1 million. Pero ang problema, wala akong tiwala sa face mo. Akong tiwala sa pagmumukha mo, punyeta ka. Kaya, gusto ko, ang pumirma sa promissory note, si X, as maker. Siyempre si A, since gusto niya makautang kay B, pinuntahan niya ngayon si X. Sabi niya, X, baka naman pwedeng mag-issue ka ng promissory note as maker. Tapos, ibigay mo sa akin as payee at i-endorse ko kay B. Pumayag naman itong si X. Now, since si X ay nag-sign as maker, ang tawag sa kanya ay accommodation maker. Ngayon, upon maturity, hinahabol ngayon dito ni B si X. Sabi ni X, ay hindi ako liable, wala akong na-receive na any consideration dito. Question, liable ba si X? Answer, yes. Kasi ang sabi nga ng section 29, last paragraph, such person or person is liable to a holder for value, notwithstanding such holder at the time of taking the instrument knew him to be only an accommodation party. Kaya kahit alam ni B na si X ay accommodation party lang, as long as si B ay holder for value, liable ngayon si A. Liable ngayon dito si X kay B. Pero question, paano kung halimbawa si binayaran for instance ni X si B? Ang tanong na yan lang dito ito. Kung binayaran ngayon ni X si B, ang question is the instrument discharge. The answer of course is no. Why? Kasi pag minasa mo yung section 119 paragraph letter B, ano bang sabi doon? Payment in due course by the accommodated party when is made for his accommodation. Ibig sabihin, para ma-discharge yung instrument, ang dapat magbayad yung accommodated party, hindi yung accommodation party. Kasi between the accommodation party and the accommodated party, the real debtor is the accommodated party. Sino ba accommodated party dito? Si A. Si X, yung lumalabas na accommodation party. Kaya kung binayaran ni X si B, entitled ngayon si X na mag-ask ng recovery kay A. Pero pag binayaran ngayon ni X si B, hindi madi-discharge pa yung instrument. Okay? Pero pwedeng habulin ngayon dito ni X si A. Pag binayaran na ni A si X, doon lang siya magkakos ng discharge. Kaya tingnan nyo maigi yung section 119 paragraph B ha. Ulitin ko, nakalagay doon sa section 119 paragraph B, payment in due course by the accommodated party when is made for his accommodation. And the purpose is to lend the name. By the way, class yung palang word na walang value na na-receive dito, ang tinutukoy dyan sa amin ng Supreme Court is wala kang na-receive doon na instrument, hindi for lending his name. Kasi ba, nagpabayad ka para magpirma ka sa accommodation party ng 50 pesos. O sabi natin 5,000 pesos. You're still an accommodation party. Pero kung wala ka natanggap doon sa mismong instrument, 1 million yung amount doon, yun yung tinatawag na no value is received. Okay? O problem, on June 1, 1990, this is a bar exam question, 1991. On June 1, 1990, A obtained a loan of 100,000 from B payable not later than December 20, 1990. Now, B required A to issue him a check for that amount to be dated December 20, 1990. Since he does not have any checking account, A, with the knowledge of B, requested his friend C, president of the Saad Banking Corporation, to accommodate him. Okay, C agreed. He signed a check for the aforesaid amount, dated December 20, 1990, drawn against Saad account with ABC Commercial Banking Corporation. Now, the bylaws of Saad requires that check issued by it must be signed by the president and the treasurer or the vice president. Since the treasurer was absent, she requested the vice president to co-sign the check, which the latter reluctantly did. The check was delivered to B. The check was dishonored upon presentment on due date for insufficiency of funds. Number 1, is the Saad Banking Corporation liable on the check as an accommodation party? Okay, answer is no. Why? Because this is an ultra vires act. Kasi, bakit siya naging ultra vires? Kasi walang power ang corporation na mag-sign as accommodation party kasi wala siyang any consideration. Kaya outside powers ng corporation yan. Kaya lumalabas hindi liable mismo yung corporation as a juridical person. Kasi ultra vires act yan. Pero may pangalawang tanong, di ba? Sabi diyan, if it's not, parang nagbibigay siya ng hint, kung hindi raw liable yung Saad Banking Corporation, who then under the above pact is the accommodation party? Kung hindi raw liable yung corporation, sino yung liable na accommodation party? Answer, hindi yung pumirma na president and yung vice president. Kasi ang basic principle dyan is section 18. No person shall be liable on the instrument whose signature does not appear thereon. Nag-appear yung signature ng president and vice president. Kaya liable sila as an accommodation drawer. Pero yung mismo corporation, hindi liable kasi unauthorized yan. Kasi lumalabas, ultra vires act yan sa part ng corporation. Okay? Clear? Okay, 1971 bar exam. Without receiving value for the purpose of lending his name, A makes a note of 500 payable to the order of B who negotiated to C, the latter knowing that A is not a party for value. Number 1, may C recover from A if the latter interposes the defense of failure or failure of consideration. Okay, the answer of course is yes. Kasi nga sabi ng last paragraph ng section 29, such person or person is liable to a holder for value, notwithstanding such holder at the time of taking the instrument knew him to be only an accommodation party. Number 2, supposing A received 30 pesos for lending his name, will it alter the result of the case? Ang issue dito, accommodation party pa rin ba si A? Tumanggap siya ng 30? The answer is yes. Kasi ang ibig sabihin ng without receiving value thereof, wala siyang na-receive mismo dun sa instrument, not for lending his name. Kaya lumalabas, accommodation party pa rin siya. And number 3, suppose A pays without objection the said 500, may he recover what we paid from it? Yes. Kasi ang relationship dito is principal surety relationship, wherein the accommodation party may recover from the accommodated party. Kasi nga between the accommodation and the accommodated party, ang real debtor talaga dyan, yung accommodated party. Ang relationship nila, principal surety relationship. Okay. Bar exam question din to. May answer na. Letter C. 2011 bar exam. To accommodate M, drawer of promissory note, A signed an endorser thereon and the instrument was negotiated to H, a holder for value. At the time H took the instrument, he knew A to be on an accommodation party. Alam daw dito ni H na accommodation party lang si A. When the promissory note was not paid and H discovered M to be without fund, he sued A. A plead in defense the fact that he had endorsed the instrument without receiving value therefore. And the further fact that H knew at the time he took the instrument that A not receive any value or consideration of any kind for his endorsement is A liable. Okay, letter C. Yes, A is liable to H under the negotiable instrument law. An accommodation party shall be liable to a holder for value, although the latter daw may have known that he was merely an accommodation party. Kasi nga di ba ang sinasabi ng section 29 last paragraph, such person or person is liable to a holder for value, notwithstanding such holder at the time of taking the instrument knew him to be only an accommodation party. Now, okay. Okay, sige, stop muna tayo para ma-check ko rin kung nagre-record. Okay? Baka mamaya, hindi pala nagre-record. Sayang yung ginawa. Okay? Tayo na another part.